Hello, everyone. Welcome to BroPod. My name is Sean, and here with me over the internet is Nathan.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yep. Today in BroPod, we're talking about shower thoughts. Now, you may be wondering, what exactly is a shower thought? I didn't even know, but I'm going to leave it to Nathan to explain.
Well, okay, so I'm pretty sure that most of you guys know what a shower thought is, or, well, some people call it a deep thought, I guess. Well, for those of you guys who do not know, it's basically a thought, well, it's basically a deep thought that you think a lot on. Like, I like to always talk about the chicken and the egg, which one came first. Now, me personally, I like to usually say that the egg came first, but Sean, what do you think? Like, what came first in your opinion? But for me, it's always got to be the egg. But then, it's always, I got to ask myself, yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you, Nathan, why do you think it is the egg?
Well, why I say the egg is first is because simply the egg is basically what the chicken comes from, right? But then, because if you think about it, where did the chicken come from? If people say, where do chickens come from? That's the egg. But then you have to say what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So obviously, I think in my opinion, the egg came first, right? I mean, if you want to go into if you want to go deeper, I'd say it was created by, I don't know, a celestial being. I mean, what do you think?
Well, scientifically, I think the chicken must have come first. So what I'm thinking is, there's this fish, right? According to evolution, there was a fish, but then that fish grew legs. But what if this fish with legs also grew feathers, but then also the ability to lay eggs? So then now we have a fish that's a chicken. And now this chicken, it laid eggs. So the chicken must have come first, right?
Sure, but
because a fish isn't hatching
no,
into an egg
but
first. It becomes
how
a chicken.
do you explain the evolution of a fish that suppose crawled out of, who knows, a pond or a body of water some million years ago, and then grew feathers, and then voila, lo and behold, you've got a chicken, and then the chicken lays an egg. But then, how did the fish come to exist? What?
Because it was okay. Do you know theory of evolution, right?
Of course I know. Well,
yeah, so it's there was a fish, but before the fish, there was a smaller and worse thing that then became the
worse
fish.
Thing? You mean a bunch of cells?
A smaller fish.
Like a
maybe
a
smaller
simple
fish.
body organism, so cells essentially, and then they came together.
Yeah.
And they formed a more complex one, and then I guess lo and behold, a fish was made, and then from that fish, the fish evolved further. It crawled out of
into a bigger fish.
Yeah, and then it crawled out of the water. And then lo and behold.
Yeah, then it was a fish needing food or something.
Yeah,
a fish needing air.
A bird, I guess, a chicken, and then it laid the egg. And then
and then
it goes.
The egg came second. So that's just my thought on that.
Well, I just think of it as, an egg is pretty much where all chickens start off as, I guess. Where all birds start off, at least. And then the egg.
Well, actually, I disagree.
You disagree?
Because the egg came from the chicken,
but then where did the chicken
was inside
come from?
The chicken?
Because I don't think a chicken. Now, people out there who know a bunch of evolution theories and all, don't hold it against me, because this is personally what I think on this topic. So I'm just saying that simply the chicken. I just find it hard to believe that a fish, something that comes from the sea. Now, I could be wrong, but I still find it difficult to believe that a bird came from a fish, and that a fish somehow magically sprouted feathers, right?
I'm not saying it came necessarily from a fish. It could have come from another mammal that came from the fish first.
No, I get that, but work with me here. I just believe that the egg came first, but then sometimes when you think a lot of it, when you think a lot about this question, especially, you start to question yourself. which one came first, the chicken
Yeah.
or the egg? And then when I like, I know I say the egg a lot. Well, not a lot. I always say the egg for reasons being that I think the egg is where all chickens come from, or birds especially. But then how and how did the egg first come to be? Because there must be
Oh,
something leading up to it, right? I mean, I don't think a
yeah.
fish could necessarily become an egg.
Okay, this is some really scientific stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, for like billions of years, just random stuff happened until eventually somebody pooped out an egg, and the egg turned out to be a pretty good way
Oh, so you
to
mean the
make
Big
more
Bang
stuff.
Theory created a freaking egg out of anything?
No, 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 no. No, it's like the theory of evolution,
Course.
right? Like this isn't just like a day. Like you don't like
No.
evolve over a day. This
I
is
don't
many
think,
centuries.
I don't think it happened over just one day and then boom, chicken. No, I think it.
Yeah, like over many centuries, they came up with the idea of making an egg. Well, I say idea, but it wasn't really an idea. It was an evolution that turned it into an egg. And then you have the egg. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the
well,
chicken came first because it had to lay the egg.
Yeah, the chicken. Well, honestly, I think if we talk about this, I don't know, just the chicken and the egg kind of deep thought, I just don't know that we might go on for hours just talking about which one came first. We could just keep arguing with each other, you know. We could just sit with each other, you know, talk on for days and skip dinner, just talking about which one came first. But I will stand my ground and say that the egg came first because
No way. Okay, wait. What is your evidence? What is your evidence?
this is just that. I mean, that's where most birds come from, like, you know, penguins, flamingos. The egg came first. But then if you're talking about, now I'm going to go there and say I've read the Bible and, you know, God created a bunch of animals, and then
Okay.
and then I guess this is where your kind of idea that the chicken came first is kind of valid, because I'm pretty sure God didn't create an egg that had, well, see, I don't know because I wasn't alive during the Bible. I didn't even exist, you know. But then
Yeah. Nor did I.
yeah. And then what I'm trying to say is, you know, God definitely created something that would eventually lead to the creation of the chicken or the egg or
Okay.
or I'm sorry.
I'm not much of a religious studier, but I think if I were God, I would spawn in
Spawn.
the chicken,
Spawn
not the
in
egg.
Chicken.
Spawn, like in Minecraft.
Well, yeah, you're
Like he's not gonna spawn an egg so the egg has to hatch. He's just gonna spawn in a chicken straight up.
okay. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that he would spawn in a chicken that would then lay more eggs, and more chickens will be produced from that one chicken. I mean, I guess you could technically argue that way, but I don't know. I just think the egg came first because, I mean, with no egg, there will be no chicken.
Okay, let me break
then,
this
no,
down.
but then if there's no chicken, there won't be any egg. So we find ourselves in a loop.
Yes, but the loop here is solved because the chicken didn't actually come from the egg. It actually came from like a fish thing.
A fish thing.
So we shouldn't be asking what came first, the chicken or the egg. We should be asking what came first, the chicken or the evolutionary fish millions of years ago.
I'm sure I don't know. Well, I know. I mean, I know theory of evolution that, you know, we all started out as simple cells, I guess, and then we just joined together, become even more complex and even more complex. I mean, that's how we survived this long. We just keep evolving. But then, how do you explain a bird coming from a chicken? A bird. Sorry. Wow, my brain's really shutting off right now. But a bird, like a chicken, coming from a fish. Somehow a fish.
It's from the evolution theory.
I mean,
That's just how
well,
it works.
I guess you're
like
right
random
on
stuff.
some elements, but then how did the fish come? I mean, well, we already discussed this. It probably just evolved further from simple cells that eventually joined together to form a fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are other deeper thoughts. I mean, thoughts that I can personally relate to. I mean, I remember there was this one where I don't know about you, but I just had a look on this on the internet once, and it was just that the fact that you randomly hear your favorite song on the radio is apparently more satisfying than playing it directly from your device, from your iPhone or iPod, or if you're really ancient, a Walkman. So tell me, how do you feel about this thought? I guess.
Okay, these thoughts, just a quick disclaimer here. We Googled them, and these are like some of the most interesting that made sense.
These were some of the ones that we personally think, so handpicked by yours truly, Nathan and Sean. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna quote it here. So the quote is, randomly hearing your favorite song on the radio is more satisfying than playing it directly from your iPod.
Now, I don't know, Sean, tell me. So back then, I mean, in the previous episode, we did talk about childhood memories, I guess, in one of the podcasts we did. Yeah, and then I mentioned a lot of nostalgic songs. You did mention Counting Stars. And there was this one song, I don't know if you remember what it was called, but it was called Dynamite by Tayo Cruz. I think that was the artist. Sorry, it's been a while. My memories kind of.
I think that's the guy. Yeah,
that's
Tayo Cruz. Yeah,
it was Dynamite, and then I remember just back then, I used to listen to it so much on the radio. My mom actually bought me a disc to play. I mean, now we have streaming devices such as Spotify and Apple Music, right? But then back then, all we really had were DVDs and cassette tapes, and and then one time, you're familiar with our local radio channel, right? 107.1.
Oh, yeah. I listened to plenty of radio channels, but I'm sure that is one of them.
It was one of them, and then I just remember just driving back from school in my mom's van, and then just listening to Dynamite come up on the radio, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, look, it's Dynamite," and then I just started like bouncing in my seat, bouncing up and down. It was just, you just don't get that same kind of feeling when you're listening on your phone, but I guess it's that feeling of anticipation because you don't know what kind of song is going to play.
I think what really makes us hearing your favorite song on the radio more interesting is that it's surprising. Like, you don't expect it. Like, when you play a song on your phone, you know exactly what song you're going to play. Yeah. But on the radio, they just play whatever.
Yeah, because
when you hear your favorite song on the radio,
it's not really a fixed kind of schedule. Whereas on your device, I mean, it still happens right now. I mean, I like to listen to Eminem a lot. I mean, rappers. I mean, but he doesn't pop up. I mean, once in a while he does pop up. One of his very, in my opinion, one of his really good songs is "Lose Yourself." It was actually featured in one of the movies that starred Eminem himself, and I think it was called "Lose Yourself." And then it was just last year. I remember it was on the radio, "Lose Yourself," and then it's just you rarely hear Eminem, especially on that radio channel like 107.1. You really hear about Eminem being like, especially his songs being started, because his songs are kind of full of coarse language and all, but then you just hear his song playing and then it's just like, oh wow, he actually did it, and then it's just really shocking. And I just remember saying, "Hey Mom, this is Eminem," in case you didn't know. And then she was just like, I didn't care. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, Eminem just got featured on 107.1. Like how do you feel towards this? I'm sure we all kind of feel this way towards listening to your favorite
just
songs.
Hearing your song on the radio, it just feels good, man. It's like, it's your song. They're playing your song.
Yeah, it's your
on
jam.
The radio.
It's your jam that's being broadcasted on that radio.
They're putting
station.
your jam on the radio.
And I think
I also kind of like think that maybe it's like sort of reassuring. Like, people are playing your music on the radio. That means your music must be good.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is good. I mean, I guess this is just music preference. Like I said, I think it's subjective because you think it's good or not. Because some people, I mean, it's all personal preference, right? I mean, what kind of songs do you like to listen? I mean, I personally, my kind of music preference is kind of weird. I mean, I like classical first of all because I play a few instruments that are especially made for like classical. For example, like the violin. I play a lot of Baroque music, Bach, and I don't know, Mozart. And then I like to listen to a lot of hip hop and rap. You know, Eminem, like I said before, Eminem, Drake, I guess, to name a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what about you? I know you did mention to me once you love listening to Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I'm more of a rock kind of guy. You know, just you're driving in the car, you got the radio on, just blaring some like epic music. You know, like "Life is a Highway." You guys know that one? I didn't sing it very well, but you guys have heard that one. It's
pretty
just so good. You know, you're driving on the road, just vibing.
Yeah, I know. I get what you mean. And then there's always, I don't know about you, but I also, in addition to those kind of genres of music, I like to listen to Michael Jackson a lot. Personally, during quarantine, I just kind of I got bored and then started listening to a lot of Michael Jackson. You know, Billie Eilish. Excuse me, not Billie Eilish.
No shot.
Oh
Billie
my
Eilish?
god, my brain's really shutting down right now, isn't it? Sorry, it's not Billie Eilish, it's Billie Jean. There you go, Billie Jean. Oh my god,
Oh yeah,
I'm so
Michael
sorry.
Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, Billie Jean is just it's a really catchy song. And then there's always like Bad by Michael Jackson. There's always Beat It, and of course Thriller. You know. It's just
Oh yeah, those ones classics.
those ones
yeah.
are classics, and then if you just hear those on the radio, it's just oh wow, it's Michael Jackson, and yeah, it's just I mean I've personally never heard Bon Jovi featured on the radio, but I mean I'm sure.
Well, it really depends on what stations you listen to, because I exclusively listen to rock radio stations.
I mean like there's always Sirius XM, right? That one radio you kind of subscribe to. And they always have like a rock channel, a rap channel. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's different channels for different
yeah.
kinds of music preferences.
Yeah, I know. And then of course there's yeah, it's just going back to that shower thought that, you know, listening to your favorite songs on the radio is always far more satisfying than listening on your device, because I think that is most definitely true. Because you know what you're going to listen to in like an album. Like for me, I have many albums on my phone that have a lot of like playlists. Sorry, to be more exact, I have a playlist that have like my favorite songs, and I just shuffle them, and then like you still don't know the order, but you know what kind of songs there's gonna be in your playlist. But for radio, you never know. Sometimes it's country, sometimes it's classical, sometimes it's rock, sometimes it's pop, sometimes it's, you know, hip hop. You just don't know, and then all of a sudden you get your favorite song on. It's just like a element of surprise, I guess you could say. I mean,
Yeah, but of course it depends on what station you're listening to.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
there's
if you're-
different types of radio stations, but like
Yeah.
just, you know, in general, you get what I mean, right?
Yeah, just hearing your song out of, you know, a lot of songs, it's a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another shower thought. I mean, deep thought. It's kind of grim, but okay, I quote. So maybe plants are really farming us, giving us oxygen until we eventually expire and turn into mulch which they can consume. So
I
I don't know.
just want to say, this is dumb because we're giving. If you guys have taken like, I don't know, high school science, then you know that we actually give plants carbon dioxide. So we're kind of working together here.
Yeah, we're kind
like
of
without
working
us, there'd be
with
no
them.
plants.
But in this kind of
So
shower
once we
thought-
all,
yeah.
in this thought, once we all eventually expire, then the plants are all expired too, because who's gonna give them carbon dioxide?
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you think about it, it's kind of like an ecosystem. We all work together, right? If one person, well, like one thing is affected, technically the whole entire thing is affected. Because if you think about it, if all humans die, then what's gonna give the plants the carbon dioxide used to produce oxygen, right? And then
Yeah, I mean technically there are like other animals now that I think about it, but I'm assuming that the plants are killing all the animals, not just humans.
yeah, I mean humans, plants. I mean humans and animals. Sorry, oh my god, humans and plants. I was meant to say humans and animals. I'm so sorry. Humans, humans and animals. I mean, we pretty much are animals if you think about it, but we're just far more evolved, right? But then, yeah, I mean, once we expire, like die, to put it in a little like explicitly, say, when we die,
Yeah.
we essentially break down, and then the plants, I guess, absorb our organic compounds, and then I mean, for plant fuel, I mean that's like manure, right? I mean, plants use manure. In case of any of you guys don't know what manure is, it's cow poop,
Yeah.
and they
I
use
mean,
it.
it's really a cycle here.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
It's a cycle
I mean,
because we eat plants,
we eat
right?
plants. I mean,
But the plants will eat us
vegetarians,
eventually.
vegetarians love plants. They eat them. Vegans love plants as well. I mean, I hold nothing against them. I personally have a lot of friends who are vegetarian, and I hold nothing against them. But then, yeah, we eat plants. I mean, they technically eat us, but when we die, of course, like expire, they eat us. Like when we pass away, I mean, I don't think they can really eat us anymore because I mean, who buries? I'm sure some parts of the world they still bury people who have expired, just bury them as they are. But then we have coffins these days, and we have we get cremated, we get burned into ash.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Most people, I think, are put into coffins nowadays, or like burnt and
I'm
stuff.
sure. Yeah.
So I don't think those plants
I
get
don't
those
think
nutrients.
plants can absorb ash really, even though it's or like the ash was originally like a human being or like an animal or of some sort. I mean, for the plant to absorb it, we have to be either fully decomposed. Now, I think the more we talk about this, we're just getting even more grim. But yeah, it's pretty much.
I mean, it's not that grim. It's just a cycle of life, you know.
Yes, the cycle, like you said. I think this thing ties into the cycle of life. I mean, we live, we die. I mean, we live, we grow up, we eventually expire. I don't know why I love saying expire. I mean, I think it's like a gentler way to say death. I mean, it's like it's like, I think it's better to approach it. It's more approachable for some people who are scared of death. So there's a fear. Sorry, I'm digressing, but I'm just gonna keep saying, but the fear of death is actually called thanatophobia. I can kind of get that because thanato comes from the Greek god of death. I think it's called Thanatos, and people who are scared of death, you can just say, oh, maybe instead of saying, oh, you're gonna die one day, you can just say, oh, you might one day like expire, like expired milk. You might expire one day. Oh my god, that's kind of dark. But you get what I mean. I mean, saying that you expire is like a gentler way of saying that you're gonna die someday. I think it's a more approachable way for some people, like I said, to people who are scared of death, like who have thanatophobia. I mean, I'm kind of scared of dying. Who knows when might die? Well, one day I might, trip and fall on the road. I might get hit by a car, but you get what I mean, right?
I mean, we're big boys, right?
Big.
We understand the concept of death.
Oh, sure. I mean, we live, we grow up, we maybe carry on our legacies, but then we expire. We expire eventually. I mean, I'm just personally uncomfortable with the idea of death. Anyways, I digress. Sorry. I'm just moving away from the topic of how we eventually
the
expire.
plants.
But like I like to think about this idea of plants eventually consuming us. Well, of course, when we were decomposed, but I don't think plants. I mean, do plants eat us when we were alive?
Well, they don't like eat us in the way that humans eat things.
I mean, if you think about anything that's living, right? Like the Venus flytrap. It's a carnivorous plant and it eats flies. So flies land on them and they eat them.
Yeah.
Essentially, and then if you think about it, that kind of contradicts this thing. I mean, flies are also living organisms, and if they die, right? If they don't really die. I mean, they die as they get consumed. They don't die and then the plants eat their remains. No, it's more like they're alive, and then the fly lands on the in the mouth of the Venus flytrap, and then the Venus flytrap then closes its mouth, and it eats poor insects that land in there. But then, yeah, I think that just kind of contradicts that kind of shower thought about how we all get absorbed into plants, you know. But then, um,
I mean, plants don't just have to eat humans; they can eat other
of
animals
course, they can
too.
eat other animals. Like we all eventually expire. I like to say we all eventually pass away. Like, uh, animals as well. You know, they die in the forest, which is pretty sad to say, but they do die, and then I guess they break down into like waste, and then plants just absorb that. I mean, if you think about it, plants absorb a lot of things, I guess, because you know you're familiar with Chernobyl, right? The nuclear power plant that melted down.
Chernobyl. Actually, I'm not. I am
Oh,
not.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, well,
How about you enlighten me?
Chernobyl. I am sorry, but I forgot the year that the meltdown happened. But there was a town I remember it was called Pripyat, and then of course it got evacuated because of course the meltdown from Chernobyl spread so much radiation, like radioactive isotopes everywhere, and of course they were in the direct blast zone, I guess. So then a lot of people evacuated. So this has nothing to do with humans being consumed by plants, but I just want to say like plants kind of consume in a way. So like a lot of people evacuated from Pripyat, like everybody, and then you can just see after you like a couple of years, like you can search it for yourself if you have just search up Pripyat, and then you can just see a bunch of plants just taking over. They're taking back like their spots. You can see buildings covered in vines. I guess you can see. I remember there was a photo of a swing set that was completely covered in branches and vines. You know, it was just they kind of. It's not they're not consuming it, but they're metaphorically kind of consuming it in a way that they're taking over everything, right?
Yeah. Wait. Sorry, you lost me there. You lost me there a bit.
Oh, sorry.
So a plant exploded,
Yeah.
and then there's plants everywhere.
Okay, so it exploded, and then it spread radioactive isotopes everywhere, and then the people in that town were really close to Chernobyl, and then the people in Pripyat had to evacuate, and when they evacuated, everything kind of just fell into disrepair. So when they fell into disrepair, um, everybody it just became derelict. There were nobody there. Nobody lived in Pripyat. I don't think after, because Pripyat was officially called the exclusion zone, where nobody was supposed to go beyond the boundaries into Pripyat. But then the plants just took over everything. You could just see some buildings covered in like plants, or you can see like I said before, the swing set was covered in plants because why the plants were spreading was I don't know. I believe it was the reason that nobody really maintained the small town anymore, so the plants just came back. So they kind of metaphorically consumed everything. They took everything back. I mean, okay, I digress again.
When I think about it, did the plants cause this explosion?
No, it was something about the power plant in Chernobyl that caused the reactor to melt down and explode. That sent a lot of radiation into the sky, into the like atmosphere, I guess. And then people had to evacuate.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I'm just saying, it's like after people evacuated, the vines, they all came back and just took over Pripyat. Essentially, everything was covered in vines, I guess. I mean, it technically metaphorically consumes it because once we kind of leave somewhere, like what I know, some people have sadly passed away in that explosion. But oh my, okay, sorry, I digress. But you get what I mean. How plants. So this I guess is true that we do. I mean, we are giving them oxygen, like to live. I mean, they're giving us oxygen. Sorry, they're farming us, so they give us oxygen, and then when we die, our bodies are essentially like turn into mulch, and then they consume it. But I think that's kind of contradicting.
Yeah. But we consume them also.
Yeah, we consume them also.
But
then
we just work together.
We kind of work together in tandem. I mean, if there's no plants, we die. We die because if there's no plants, cows can't eat food. We can't eat beef, and then therefore we kind of.
I don't know about that one. I think we die because we don't have any oxygen.
Well, yeah.
And then we can't breathe, and then I think that's how we die.
We kind of suffocate eventually. I kind of get what you're saying, but then if you see, plants are essentially the main food source for a lot of things. Like I said before, cows, sheep, pigs. I mean, we all eat pork. We all eat beef. We all eat meats. I mean, imagine plants, right? They are the food source of like I said before, many things. We eat plants as well. I mean, salads, right? Garden salads. Yeah, but then if they die, we eventually will die as well because our food source has been compromised, and then some cows might die because I'm pretty sure cows don't eat each other. They don't cannibalize each other. But then, yeah, we die, they die. If we die, they won't be able to survive. So I kind of think it's we're all working together in this ecosystem. So yeah, that's as far as I can think in this shower thought.
I mean, I'm just thinking that we'd probably die of lack of oxygen before we die of hunger.
Yeah. I mean,
just if all plants are wiped out, I just want to put that out there.
I mean, plants are, they are a vital part in our lives. I mean, they like you said, they make they make oxygen for us. Like that process is called photosynthesis, where they create water and glucose for themselves. Of course, we have to give them carbon dioxide, right?
Yeah. Yes, we do. It's give and take. You know.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and then that's pretty much it. All I could think about for that shower thought. Anyway, there's another one where now this I believe is a subjective one because this only. Okay, so I'm just gonna quote it. It's called "Tall people are expected to use their reach to help shorter people, but if a tall person were to ask a short person to hand them something they dropped on the floor, it'd be insulting." Now, like I said, this is subjective because this only works. This tall people quote is especially subjective because it only kind of works if you're tall, I guess. I mean, China.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
I mean, if you have to be tall. I mean, there's a specific height to be considered as tall. Now, for Canada, at least, I think the average.
I don't think it means like a specific number. I think it means like a taller person, like it's relative.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it has to be a significant difference in height. I mean, you can't say like a person who's 5'8" and then 5'10". I mean, there's only a 2-inch difference. I'm sure if a 5'10" person asked a 5'8" person, "Oh, help me pick up that pen I dropped," or pick it up. I don't think that would be really insulting, but I think it has to be like a significant difference in height, right? Because I think that, yeah, like if there's a person who's like, oh, 6'5", and then there's another person who's like 5'1", that would be kind of insulting. So if the 6'5" guy was saying, "Oh, sorry, I think I dropped my book. Can you please help me pick it up?" That would be kind of insulting to the shorter person. I mean, how tall are you? I mean, we pretty much go to the same high school together, so you're pretty tall. I'd say you're around. If I had to give a rough estimate, I think you're about 5'10", around 5'10".
Very generous.
5'10", 5'11".
Very generous.
So, not being mean or anything. I'm just saying from my kind of view that you kind of tower over a few people. You are definitely a taller person, and I'm sure you help some people reach for stuff like your parents, I guess. I mean, we are all...
Yeah, like,
I guess.
in my immediate family, yeah.
I mean, you do help people.
I help them grab stuff.
There's something high up in a shelf, and then you want to grab, and then you just go... your mom, for example, asks you to grab, like, a jar off a shelf. You just help her. I mean, yeah. I mean, see, I think that's definitely insulting, especially for a shorter person. If you, for example, ask them to drop, because I think you're kind of making fun of their height, that they're short, they're closer to the ground, that they can grab it faster without kind of.
No, I don't think it's. I have to disagree. I don't think you're really making fun of their height.
Okay.
I think it's really a matter of like courtesy. Right? So, for example, a tall person, he can reach down.
Of course.
And a short person can reach down. But a tall person can only reach up, and a short person physically cannot reach up there to get something.
No. But then it's courtesy, but I think it's only the tall person thinks it's courtesy, and then the short person might like see this is okay. So this is a psychological kind of term. It's called cognitive dissonance. So essentially, to put it in simpler words, it's essentially called mixed signal. So if you're trying like a tall person, for example, like I'm kind of average height, but say like, and then my mom is definitely a lot shorter than me, but then there's this thing called cognitive dissonance, right? You essentially say something in, for example, like if I say, "Hey mom, I dropped my pencil, can you help me pick it up?" And then I mean it as a way of like, just pick up a pencil please, and then like that's all I mean, but then she might get the wrong idea, right? So cognitive dissonance. So you get the mixed signal. You get the wrong idea that I'm mocking you with your own height, which in fact I'm not trying to. So I guess that's how this shower thought comes from, because sometimes it's not meant to be an insult. It's really just meant as like a favor. Can you pick up my pencil, or can you pick up my book, or can you pick up my phone? It fell on the ground. And then
I like how you used favor there.
Yeah.
Like you're doing someone a favor. It's like a tall person, he can grab that pencil, but a short person can also grab that pencil if like you drop it.
I mean, if you turn this thing around and rephrase it, like tall, like if you ask a tall person to get it off, you can't really insult someone for being tall necessarily, because being tall is it's definitely not a bad
generally
thing.
seen as an advantage.
But then being tall it definitely has its downsides. Like being tall. I mean, airplanes, right? You've been in airplanes before.
Wait. How does being an airplane affect height?
I'm just saying, like,
what do you mean by that?
I'm just explaining how sometimes being tall has its disadvantages. Sometimes, like airplanes have really cramped up spaces, and especially for tall people, I guess, they're really kind of annoying. Can be a pain in the backside. I mean,
okay, I think that's only if you're like really, really tall.
Yeah, when
you're tall to the point where it's a disability.
Yeah, being tall when you're
like you can't walk through doors.
Yeah, but
like anything below that, I think that
fine.
Being tall is generally an advantage.
Yeah, being an advantage. Being tall, you can grab things. You walk faster than shorter people, which that is, I guess, the truth. But you can't really necessarily, if a short person asks a taller person to grab something off a shelf, for example, that's way too high for the shorter person, that's not necessarily an insult. It's more of a favor, and I don't think there's any cognitive dissonance, as they call it.
You're not insulting them by asking, "Can you grab that?"
No, that's just a favor. That's just a favor.
Like, I can't do it. They're like, the little person, they can't get it.
No.
So like, please help me get that. I can't reach it. So then the tall person will get it.
Yeah, that's more of a favor.
They're helping them out.
Asking someone for a favor, and then they helping you. They help. Wow. They help. Oh my god, I am so sorry, but it's not they help. But then you ask them for a favor, and then they will help you. Okay, I rephrased. Yeah. Okay, I phrased that correctly. Sorry, my brain's kind of shutting down. Like I can't really form words, but then if you turn that around, if you reverse the roles and ask the tall person the tall person asks a shorter person to grab something off the floor. If I was a shorter person in like another parallel universe, I was way shorter than I already am, and then some tall guy asks me to pick up a pencil that he dropped on the floor. I mean, I would grab it. I mean, it's not necessarily personally. I wouldn't interpret that as an insult, but I think I will just interpret that as as like a favor. But I want to rephrase this shower thought by saying if tall people are expected to use their reach to help shorter people, but if a tall person were to ask a short person to hand them something on a shelf, that would be insulting. I think that would be genuinely insulting if you ask like a short person to reach for something on a shelf they couldn't reach. I think that's more of a direct attack at them.
That is definitely an assault.
That is definitely an insult because assault. There's no denying it. It's pretty much, you're short. Let's see if you can grab that, even though I know you're not gonna reach it. And then you need a ladder to get it, right? Because that's more of an insult. But honestly, if I think like a short person, if a tall person, asks a short person to grab something from the floor that they dropped or something that's too low for them, I would definitely see how it might be misinterpreted because, like I said, cognitive dissonance and all, how you might get the wrong idea. Like, I personally, like I said before, wouldn't really interpret it as necessarily an insult. I mean, how do you think about it? Like, how if you were short, let's say.
Are you busy?
I don't think it's an insult. I think it really depends on the situation. Because if the tall person can physically just reach down and grab it, then that's very rude. I think that's very rude.
I think that's...
Because then why are you asking someone else to do it when you can do it, right?
Sure, but then if you think about it, sometimes you can't, like the tall person might not be able to grab it, or they might be busy.
Yeah, like when they can't grab it.
Yeah, when they can't grab it.
Let's say like the guy's on the ladder, right? It's someone below. You say, hey, can you hand me that screwdriver? That wouldn't be rude because, he's up there. He would have to climb down to grab the screwdriver. But the person down there already, they can just hand him the screwdriver. And it's way easier. And it's just a courtesy.
Yeah.
But if you drop a pencil.
Get that, of course. Yeah. And then there's always some kind of people who believe that it's an insult. And then, of course, we don't mean it. Like, I've run into my fair share of short people where when I ask them to, it's happened before, and sometimes I ask them to do something, or I mean sometimes I just do. Like I have a few friends who are definitely shorter than me. I'm out of my friend group, I am definitely one of the tallest. I sometimes joke around about their height, but then of course, I mean being tall sometimes, like I know I'm not okay, so I'm not trying to say I'm tall in any way, but I'm definitely not a short person. And in my house, there's always these kitchen lights, and then they're relatively low. They hang really low. So I digress, but I'm just going to explain this for context. Why I believe sometimes being tall is sometimes maybe not that good. And there's these kitchen lights in my house, and then sometimes if I stand up too quickly, my head, I usually smash my head into those kitchen lights and I make them go clang. And it's just, sometimes that kind of just backs up my kind of claim about how being tall sometimes is to your disadvantages, because like you hit your head on some things. I mean, like you said before, it just depends how tall you are. Like I'm not that tall, but people who are like, I'm saying, people who are 6'5", 6'9" or something, they're probably going on airplanes or anything. I think that's gonna be a little tough for them. But for short people especially, I mean, sometimes being short is pretty good. I mean, maybe not always, but there's always something good in something bad. Like you can find the good in the bad, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's benefits and positives and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, let me ask you, Nathan. Yeah. Have you ever personally asked a shorter person to pick something up for you?
I did. Well, like I said before, my mom, because I was
like what situation?
What situation? This was actually a while ago. Like I was like you said, I was on a ladder. I was actually helping my mom kind of screw on this bird feeder on the tree, And then no, well, this is what happened with me. So I was just helping my mom. This was, I think, a year ago, and then my mom bought a bird feeder, and then she was like, Nathan, can you please help me on this, like putting the bird feeder onto the tree? I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And then I went up, and then I asked my mom if she could pass me the hammer so I could hammer in the nail, and she did. Of course, she took it as like she took it as, of course, like a favor because, well, I need the hammer first of all, but I didn't mean, of course, if I don't know how this shower thought came to be. I mean, sometimes I look at it and sometimes I question it because sometimes I don't know how you would interpret something like a favor as like an insult because clearly the other person definitely did not mean it as an insult, but more of the other person meant it more of as a favor because first of all, they definitely need it. Like I said before, I definitely needed the hammer so I could hammer in the bird feeder. But then, like, okay, let me turn this question back on you. Do you have any personal encounters that you have asked a shorter person, let's just say, not a short person, because I feel that's much more, a little kind of bad, but have you asked a person who is shorter than you to pass you something that you dropped on the ground?
That I dropped on the ground.
Well, anything. Well, to pass you something that you could not reach.
Well, yes. Again, like I've had to, do some housework, screw some stuff into the roof. I go on a ladder.
Of course.
And asking there, I don't think that's bad. But like when you're standing on level ground and you drop something, that is where it's a difference when you're on level ground.
I guess so. I mean,
because like
I remember
it's not hard to
dropping
get.
something on. I was helping my mom cook one time. I dropped. I remember. I think I knocked over a fork with my elbow, and I was like, "Mom, can you please pick up that fork for me?" And then she just she didn't interpret it as like an insult. She more interpreted it as me being lazy, that I would stop and then pick up the fork myself. But I don't know. We were on level ground. I guess we were on the same level of. We were at the kitchen, and then I just kind of knocked it off, and it was like, "Hey, Mom, can you please pick up that thing?" And then she was, "No, pick it up yourself. Like, don't be lazy."
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes this kind
of exactly.
This kind of makes me question.
Like this is your mother, and even she thinks that you should do it.
Yeah, I mean, this like even happened before. It's in we were in high school. We do labs, right? I accidentally knocked over a spatula. Like it's called a spatula, it's like a small kind of pen. The size of a pen, and you scoop up, for example, salt, and you put it into water and you stir it. So I accidentally knocked it over, and I asked one of my friends who is a lot shorter than me to go and pick it up, and of course he did. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem," and he did it. So this kind of makes me question how this shower thought how people think of this as an insult. Like, how do you think of it? Like, if you were short, like, would you think it be an insult or not? Just tell me. Like,
depends on the situation.
Like what?
But I'm gonna say that if you're like on the level ground, that's an insult for sure.
Yeah.
Like unless you're physically busy, like you're doing some delicate kind of work, and you need the tool fast and you can't move.
Like if your hands
then
are
you
full,
would ask
like
someone
if your
to pass
hands are
you
full
something.
and you currently cannot pick it up, you're occupied, so you have to ask another person to get it.
Yeah, like if like you're carrying boxes, something falls off, you say, "Can you grab it?" And they'll be like, "Okay," because it fell off. My hands are full. I'd grab it myself, but I can't because I'm carrying this box, right?
Yeah, I get that.
But if you just drop something, and you can grab it, but you're just too lazy or something, and be like, "Oh, grab that for me," because you're shorter, so it'll be easier.
Well, I think
then that.
Okay, now that you
rude.
mentioned it, I think if you say, like, "Oh, pick it up for me," because you're closer to the ground, or
not because they're shorter.
Because if you say like if you explicitly mention them being short, I think that will be interpreted 100% as an attack, as a direct attack to a short person. Which
without a doubt.
Do not. I'll never.
But I mean, like, you're not exactly saying that they're short. I'm just like saying that as like the thought process.
No, like
of
a thought process.
A tall
but
person.
I think,
like what they
I
might
said
think.
Before, cognitive dissonance, right? How you might misinterpret the signal that they're given to you. But then, of course, there's always explicitly telling them, "Hey, like, you pick up that pencil because you're closer to the ground, or because you're short." That is an insult. That's what you call a direct attack to the short person. Now, I think that is how people might sometimes interpret it 100% as being an attack towards the short person. But I think if you're just saying, "Oh, please, can you please help me pick up that pencil I dropped up," like in a polite way, that I can guess they will pick it up for you, or they might, like in the case of my mom, how I knocked over that fork, she kind of just said, "No, I will not do that," and like, "Don't be lazy." So, I mean, unless you're really occupied with something, right?
Yeah, like what were you doing in your lab when you knocked the thing over?
I mean, so now I am. For those of you who do not know, I think we mentioned this in the very first kind of episode, I guess episode 0. I mentioned that we are both high schoolers, and I am taking chemistry, and then there's this thing called, and we were doing this lab, and then we had to mix two things together. So I had to use the spatula and scoop up some solids and mix it up with some alcohols, which would then produce a smell by mixing it and boiling it in water. And then I kind of just set the spatula aside, and then I think it was when I was placing it, I kind of knocked it over with my elbow. So I turned around to my friend. Of course, he was shorter than me, so I was like, "Hey, bro, can you pick up can you pick up the spatula, because I knocked it over accidentally?" He was like, "Oh, sure, man, no problem." Like, even though he was shorter than me, he picked it up and was like, "Oh, here you go." And like, see, I like to say that I don't think he interpreted that as an insult, because I was genuinely occupied by putting the mixed solution into the boiling water. So yeah, that kind of contradicts this shower thought, I like to think of it.
Yeah, wait, let me just crap, let me ask you about something here. So what if the guy was taller? Would it make any difference?
I'm sure it wouldn't make any difference if my friend was, say, like, I don't know, a couple of more inches taller than me. I don't think it wouldn't make a huge difference. I mean, I think height is just, okay, I'm digressing again here, but I think height is just an expectation some people have. I mean, height, you can't really control. You can control how tall you grow to some degree. I mean, people drink milk, right? It's all about nutrition, I guess. And then, of course, there's also genetics involved. But then, I don't know, like, it doesn't matter how tall you are, right? Because being tall is something you can't really control. But, like, I just don't know. I mean, being tall is just, it's a characteristic, definitely, but I don't think it's the most important characteristic that defines you as a person. I mean, yeah, that's...
Wait, can I ask you about this situation again? Was your friend, like, paying attention? Like, did he notice that you knocked it over?
I mean, no, he was attending, so, of course, during our lab, we have to we have to take down notes. He was observing other things, and then, I mean, I don't think he heard me when the spatula clattered onto the ground. I don't think he was really paying attention to that. I mean, I heard it for sure because it was close to me. I mean, it was a big bench, so he was far away from me. Well, far away as in there was a significant amount of distance between us. So he probably didn't hear the spatula being knocked off. And then I was like, "Hey, can you please pick up that spatula, because I'm kind of occupied with mixing together the different solutions together in boiling water." So he agreed, of course. So then, yeah, like I said before, this kind of contradicts this shower thought about how some short people might interpret it as, an insult, because I personally do not think they would, because it's a matter of courtesy of them to pick it up, and a courtesy, or
I like how you say courtesy there.
Courtesy?
Like, I think true courtesy is when someone drops something, you don't have to ask them to pick it up.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? Like, they see you drop it, and then they'll just help pick you up without even asking.
Courtesy is like, is like saying, "Oh, if you, like, sneeze," and then without, of course, you don't say something like, if you sneeze and then if a bystander and say, "Please say bless you to me," you don't say that. I think courtesy is doing something right without without them explicitly telling you to do that. Like, I remember one time there was this old lady. She was having trouble loading her groceries into her car, so I just told my mom to wait by the car, and then I was like, do you need help, I guess? And then I kind of just started helping her load her groceries into the car. So I think that's just courtesy. Helping those people, I guess, is just courtesy. But then I kind of asked him because I was genuinely occupied, because I can't really take my hands off while mixing because I was supposed to follow the guidelines. But like I get what you mean, like courtesy.
Yeah, like you shouldn't have to ask.
No, you shouldn't have to ask. So I guess
like they'll just help you out.
So I guess like when you ask them to pass you the thing, I guess that's how they kind of interpret it as an insult. But if it drops and you don't ask, I guess they will just pick it up because of courtesy. But then if you ask them, it's more of a favor than an insult. So I'm just kind of unsure. I mean, it could be interpreted. Just take it or leave it, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence now. I don't even know.
You're on the fence? I mean, sure. I mean, it's your opinion. You're entitled to that. I mean, I can't really change it, but this is how I feel. This is my informed opinion on how I believe it. But I mean, you can't just say to like a short person, pick it up, shorty, or pick it up, midget, or like, I don't know, hey, hobbit, go pick up that spatula.
Okay, when you explicitly call them short,
yeah, if you call them short,
that is rude 100%. But if you just say pick it up,
yeah,
you don't even bring in their height.
Oh, like
if you don't bring up their height,
I'm pretty sure, like going
rude.
back to that situation, me dropping the spatula. If I turn around and say, "Hey, hobbit, go pick up that spatula," I'm pretty sure that's 110% an attack towards that short person, and I am not that kind of person. I am not a monster. I will not say that to my friend. No. Yeah, that would be more of a direct attack.
All right. Let's wrap it up there, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Sean, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody. Hello, listeners. Thanks for making it to the end and listening to BroPod on YouTube. If you like what you hear, drop a like, comment, or subscription. Check out some other episodes, and until next time, peace.